Hello everyone. Thank you for taking a couple minutes out of your day to watch this video. Today we're going to be talking about connectors connect on common ground. This is from John C. Maxwell's book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. So when you're having a conversation with someone, isn't it much easier to connect when you have something in common? If you have some common frame of reference or some common background, maybe a shared story, just think about it. Isn't it so much easier to find that good common ground, that good communication? You probably walk away from that conversation, you'll probably remember something about it. Now, have you ever sat in a lecture or listened to somebody talk and you're kind of like, what am I doing here? They can't even relate, right? So as a communicator, as a leader, as a connector, you need to be able to find a way to connect with almost anyone. Is there a chance that you're not going to be able to connect? It could happen. However, there are a lot of tools that you can use to learn how to connect with people better and to find that common ground. I'm going to go through 4 barriers to finding common ground, and I'm going to give you 8 tools that will help you to find common ground. The barriers to common ground, the first one is assumption. I can't tell you how many times that I have violated this one, or I've seen it violated. I live in a world where dynamics are a little complex sometimes, and sometimes I'm in the middle. And one thing you know, if you've ever been in the middle of a complex conversation, is that both sides are making assumptions and neither one of them are right. That's what an assumption is. And so you can't find common ground. So there's no resolution because they can't find that common ground because they're both deciding what the other person is thinking or wants. So you need to find that. If you can, that's one of the big barriers. Arrogance. This is another one that I've had to deal with many times in my life. Arrogance is ignorance showing its head. You want to find common ground, you have to understand you don't know it all. I know, thinking back through my life, how many times I've had to 5, 6 years later go, oh, I really didn't know what I was talking about. One of the neat things about getting older in life is you learn more and more what you don't know and less of what you do. Indifference. This is where you really don't care to know or feel or what other people want. We've all had conversations with people that were indifferent. Maybe you've been indifferent with some people. I know I have. And it's not always deliberate. But what it is, it's always a barrier to finding common ground. If you want to relate to somebody, you're going to have to break down that indifference barrier. And control. Control is something I've had to deal with my entire life. I have an innate desire to control situations, things, whatever it is. If you want to connect with people and you want some common ground, you're going to have to let go of some control. Because as we go through these 8 steps, you're going to find out that control is not going to get the job done. So how can we find common ground? What can we do to start building that bridge so we can get from 2 points of view to come together to be one? So we can get a message communicated properly. The first one is availability. This is, almost falls in that common sense category. Many of these do. Availability. If you want to find some common ground with somebody, you're going to have to be available. You're going to have to be willing to spend some time. If you're not willing to spend time, if you're not willing to come to the table, if you're not willing to carve out your schedule, you're not going to find common ground. You can listen your way to common ground. Listening, and the next one, number 3, questions, are areas that I've personally had to struggle with quite a bit. I don't ever run short of words. Very seldom run short of words. Well, when you don't run short of words, how can you listen? If your mouth is moving, your ears aren't working. Finding good questions to ask someone. Are you really engaged? If you're engaged, you're going to ask relevant and thoughtful questions to that person you're trying to connect with. That's one way that you're going to be able to establish that common ground. There's one thing I know. I don't know it. Dale Carnegie came up with it. People love to talk about themselves. They love what they're interested in. If you can listen and ask good questions about what they're interested in, you're going to find some common ground very quickly. Number 4 is thoughtfulness. Do you think before you speak? Do you think about that other person's point of view? What's important to them? If you want to build some common ground, really invest some thought energy into what that other person's saying to you. Openness. Not always been a huge fan of being open. I don't know if this is just a guy thing or if it's just a Joe thing. I've had to learn how to open myself up and become very vulnerable and be willing to let other people into my life. If you're trying to build a bridge between here and there, you have to be open to all this space in between and figuring out what's going to fit in there to bridge that gap. Likability. You're going to have to care about people. My goal is to add value to you. Why do I do that? Because I value you. And in order to add value to others, you have to value them. Everybody deserves value as God's creation. If you don't value somebody, they are going to, whether they can hear it in your voice or see it in your body language or something that we don't even understand yet, they get it. If you don't care about other people, you will never find common ground. Because at some level, they are going to know that this is all about you and not about them. You want to build that bridge. Number 7 is humility. Humility means knowing and using your strength for the benefit of others on behalf of a higher purpose. Too many people think of humility and they think it's a bad thing. They think of it as weak. They think of it as timid. They think of it as whatever. You fill in your own adjective for what you think when you think of humility. But humility is not that. It is strength applied for the benefit of others on behalf of a higher purpose. Humility can bridge a lot of gaps. And number 8 is adaptability. If you want to build a bridge and you want to find that common ground, you have to be willing to move from your world into their world, whatever that may look like. Sometimes that'll be that shared experience, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll be something you don't know at all. But if you're willing to move from your world into their world, you can find that common ground. You can really connect, and then you can communicate that message. To connect on common ground, ask these questions. Do I feel what you feel before asking, do you feel what I feel? Ask yourself, do I see what you see before asking, do you see what I see? Do I know what you know before asking, do you know what I know? And do I know what you want before asking, do you know what I want? So those are a couple questions you can ask yourself to kind of, as you're evaluating, am I connecting, am I common ground? Those are some questions you can ask yourself. You need to know the reason that you and your listener want to communicate and connect, and then build that bridge in between. I hope you enjoyed. You can always reach out to me at joe@joeleeconnections.com, and I'd love to take a deeper dive in this material with you. You can also hit me up on my social media platforms. I hope everyone has a blessed week. And until next time, God bless.